Yeah. Yeah, man.
My friends and I were traveling to visit a relative of mine in Austin. We had road tripped all the way from Missouri. At this point, we were kind of bouncing around to various towns, exploring the countryside. We had arrived in Texas a bit early and had to kill some time. Now at one point, we stopped at a gas station near Glass, Texas. Never saw the town, but that's what the old paper map we were using said. We wanted to do things old school with a paper map, but I still used my phone half the time. The station was a place called Quickie Fix and seemed perfectly average, and just a little run down, but still colorful. Now, I'm sure it would have seemed creepy at night, but during the day and with my friends, it was nothing to be worried about. It was also safe to say that there was hardly anything around this place. Maybe some cows grazing, but no buildings, just more roads and fields in the distance. And my friends, a couple guys named Tom and Cooper, wanted to load up on snacks and I needed to use the bathroom bad. The inside of the station was also average, with fluorescent lights beating down on everything, and beverages in the refrigerators. And the woman behind the counter was a bit off-putting, and she was incredibly overweight and did not seem to respond to us walking in, and she just kept staring ahead, at nothing in particular, with enormous arms resting on the counter. While my friends pursued the snack aisle, I tried to find the bathroom myself, and after not spotting it easily, I resigned myself to talking to that woman. I asked her where the bathroom was, and she looked at me very suddenly. There was something off about the way her attention just snapped to me, as if I had broken a spell. She slowly, almost robotically, handed me a key. "Round back," she said simply. I took the key, which felt heavy and wet. I chalked it up to her just having sweaty hands. I held the key in my hand and told my friends I'd be right back. As I walked out the door, I glanced back inside. The woman had been watching me, as if she did not want me running off with a key or something. She seemed to be scrutinizing me. Her eyes seemed so much more alert now that I had the key in my hands. I made my way around back, and I found a door with a little man on it. In the men's room, it looked about as mucky as anything else in this gas station. Oddly enough, there wasn't a door nearby with a little woman on it. I thought it was odd. I guess it was a gender-neutral situation. I slid the key into the handle and pushed my way inside. The bathroom was dark. I tentatively groped for a light switch. I didn't want to touch much of anything in there. And when the lights flicked on, I noticed bugs crawling into the corners. Great, I thought. Can't wait to put my bare ass on the toilet in here. No, it was still relatively dark. One of the fluorescent lights was out, and so the whole place seemed dim. There was a urinal and a single stall. Kinda creepy, but again, it was daytime and I wasn't all too concerned. There was an odd smell though, like fish, or maybe just shit, like a putrid combination of the two. I opened the stall, and to my surprise, the toilet wasn't overflowing with vomit or trucker shit, and it was actually decently clean, still relatively white porcelain. Alright, there was toilet paper, and so I naturally covered as much as I could before sitting down. Now at this point, I really needed to go, which is probably why I didn't notice the writing on the wall until I had my pants down and I was taking care of my business. Now on the right wall, there was what looked to be writing. It had been scratched onto the wall, messily and seemingly hastily. Now I am transcribing what I found exactly as I found it. Any words in the parentheses are my own personal notes. The message covered nearly the entire right side of the stall. Well, it read as follows.
Don't look up. Don't look up on the ceiling. It is too late to go. Don't go. I promise I'll be soft with you until I am finished. And so don't look up. I am angry.
Now, it could have also read hungry.
I don't want you to be.
Illegible words.
It has been too long.
This next line was completely incomprehensible.
Good. Keep reading. Don't look up. Don't look up. Don't look up. Don't look up yet. Keep reading.
Now, at this point, I realized what I had gotten myself into. Everything in my body told me to look up. This was silly, but I just couldn't do it.
I don't want you to see me. I don't want you to leave. It has been so long, so long. Please keep reading. Don't look up.
Now, there was more illegible writing. It looked as if the writing was scratched into the wall by desperate human nails. I was also starting to panic a bit, and I was reading a lot faster.
Okay, keep reading. Don't look up. I'm coming down now. Don't look up. I'm coming down now. Keep reading. I am coming down for you. Keep reading. Don't look up. Don't look up. I know it's hard, but I don't want you to see me. I am almost down. I will feel you soon.
I'm pretty sure it said Phil.
Your skin, your hair, so soft I am coming down for you. Don't look up. Don't look up. Don't look up. Don't look up. Don't leave. I need it. Don't look up. I am coming down. I am coming down. Don't look up. Almost there. I can almost touch you. Don't look up. I'm so close. Don't look up. So close. Don't look up. 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 Look up.
That was all there was. It ended with scratches I couldn't quite make out. My heart was racing as I quickly pulled my pants up. I didn't even finish going to the bathroom. And I got the fuck out of there. I didn't look up. I fucking couldn't. But the whole time I felt the hairs on the top of my head tingling, my senses on end. A part of me fully expecting to feel something when I stood up from the toilet. I burst out of that bathroom and back into the light. I was never happier to see the sunlight. I went straight to the car. I texted my friend that I wanted to leave, fast. Then I realized I still had the key in my hand. I decided I'd keep it. There was no way I wanted to see that woman in there again. No way I wanted to see that blank expression. I wanted to vanquish this place from my memory. When we left, I told my friend about the message, but not in a way that implied I believed it. I told him I just thought it was kinda cool and creepy. I said, but I felt truly afraid. I felt as if I just barely escaped something horrible. I felt the key in my pocket as I told the story. A trophy of my survival, I thought to myself. I wish I had gotten a picture to show you, but I was so paranoid I left in a real hurry. I know deep down that this was probably a very, very effective scare prank. But who could do this at a gas station in the middle of nowhere? And there was that smell I couldn't quite place. Like fish, but not quite right. And this was one of the creepiest things I've ever seen. But there is one thing I didn't fully realize until after the fact. Something I haven't mentioned. Now, before I had sat down to use the toilet, there was something on the other wall. The one opposite from the eerie message. It was a series of tallies, as if someone was keeping count. There were 4 tallies, and then a dash through it to signify 5. There were 5 of those. 5 of those meant, if I counted right, there was 25 marks. I would have been 26. Whatever that means. Before I get into the story, I'm a young adult female who was diagnosed with psychotic depression and anxiety disorder. I had a rocky childhood, and my high school years were spent doing everything to escape my home. I volunteered at a homeless shelter every other weekend when I can. The small town I live in provides very little for the homeless population, and I feel like if I didn't do it, I wouldn't have anything to provide for society. It feels sort of selfish, really, but I've never considered myself a good person. Some of the folks there are extremely polite and easy to talk to, and charming even. I've made friends with a handful of the people that go through, watch them get back on their feet, but there's always that crowd. The druggies, the crazies, the ones who have lived out in the woods for too long. The wayward ramblings and the eyes that settle right into the uncanny valley. I make it my personal mission to avoid these people at all costs. It was a Saturday night in August, somewhere around 8 o'clock. Usually the homeless center closes around 6, but during the summer it stays open later to accommodate for the volunteers still in school. I was helping 2 fellow volunteers, one guy my age and a girl in her senior year of high school, clean up in the kitchen. I have this anxiety about going to the bathroom in public places. Not over cleanliness or anything. It's just one of my weird triggers. Having said that, I hadn't used the restroom since I had left my apartment at 10 o'clock this morning. So you could guess my urgency. Despite my anxiety, I excused myself and made a beeline for the ladies' room. Now, a bit of explanation. The center is a building split up into separate rooms. To get to the bathroom, you had to walk out of the kitchen, a small room tucked away in a bigger room, and through the door of that room into a hallway. The hallway was full of doors into other rooms, and we like to call it the hub. Then, you had to walk down the hub to the very end. The ladies' room was the last door on the right, and the men's room was the last door on the left. Now you would open the door to the ladies' room, and you're met with a long hallway. Directly at the end of the hallway was 3 dingy sinks, and 2 soap dispensers between them, and a mirror above each one. Directly beside those, there were 4 bathroom stalls. The very last one on the left side being the biggest, meant for the disabled. So, I did just that. The ladies' room was totally empty, from what I could see. But I noticed something strange right off the bat. The lights were motion activated, so when you open the door, they flicker on. They were already on when I came in. This wasn't completely strange, all things considered. It was a public bathroom, of course, and there were bound to be other people using it. I scolded myself for my anxiety and began to walk towards the stalls. The largest one at the very end was closed and locked, and last I checked, the 2 volunteers and I were the only ones here. By now, my anxiety was slowly turning into fear, so I crept for the stall farthest away from that room. The lock was busted. I moved on to the one beside it, and go figure, the lock was busted. The only one left was the one directly beside the occupied stall. I did not want, by any means, to use that damn stall. But fear be damned, my bladder was full and currently screaming at me to grow some lady balls and piss already. As quick as I could, I slid into the stall and went about my business. As soon as the flow began, I could have sworn I heard something. It was very subtle, a shifting noise, as in clothes ruffling. I finished peeing and made for the toilet paper. Now by now, the feeling of discomfort had only tripled, and my only want was to get out of that fucking stall. I glanced up for only a moment, as if to check to see if someone was, I don't know, peeking over the stall, and then I looked down, so as to stand up and pull up my pants. There was someone there, staring at me from the floor. It was one of the crazies that came into the homeless shelter. I recognized him, because he always used to compliment my dyed purple hair. I let out a scream and, kicking open the stall door and making a beeline for the exit, pulling my pants up as I went. As weird as that sounds, I could have sworn I heard slurping behind me, like a dog drinking from a toilet bowl. I stopped volunteering at that shelter after that night. Fuck it. If I don't have any worthwhile contributions, I'm okay with that, so long as I never have to see someone looking back at me while I'm using the bathroom ever again. I remember always being afraid of going into the school's bathrooms, maybe because of how shabby they looked, how the lights don't really work, or just the presence of it when you go near. Well, usually as a child, I foolishly held in my pee and only went when I returned home, because no matter what I did, I couldn't bring myself to use the school's toilet. I would always imagine that there was a little ghostly girl behind me the moment I stepped into the bathroom, or when I look into the mirror, there would be one standing behind me. The canteen one was the worst. It was always dark with one feebly light hanging from the ceiling, illuminating its dark crevices and yellow stains. But one particular event was the main reason why I was so afraid, because it still leaves me a bit weirded out and puzzled. I think I was in a club, so I was forced to stay back at school late. You know how usually after the bell rings, the halls cleared out super quickly, and there were barely a few students left behind? The school immediately felt creepy and vast after that. Well, also, I need to remind you that I was only a little girl, probably 9 years old, so I was terrified. I could only hear my own very breath, in and out heavily in the dark and quiet hall. Suddenly, the most devastating feeling hit me as I sat quietly outside my classroom, waiting for my mom to pick me up. I felt the rush of peeing. It wasn't something that I could hold. I remember feeling this urging rush waiting to be released. One cough or sudden breath would cause me to wet myself. Stupid as it sounds, but the colors drained down my face. Reluctantly, I dragged myself to the nearest toilet on that floor. It was the 3rd floor. No one used the 3rd floor's bathroom. It was always left vacant. Maybe 1 or 2 visits here and there, but never the to-go area. But in desperate times like mine, it wasn't much of a choice. I stepped in. Not a single soul was present. I closed the door behind and the handle closed under my hands. There were probably 5 stalls. All were marked available, so I picked the nearest one to the door. I stepped in it, locked it, and sat down. Well, after I flushed and finished my business, the bathroom's door creaked and opened. Someone came in. They had came to the stall right next to my left, opened it, closed it, locked it, and remained silent. I sat there for a whole 1 minute, somehow quite scared, but I couldn't explain why. Then I gathered enough courage, holding my breath, and creeped outside. I kid you not, when I glanced over to the stall next to mine, there was absolutely no one there. Not only was it empty, but the door was wide open at the most unnatural angle, and it was closed before, and showing a definitely unused toilet inside. The lock was even marked unavailable, bright and red. I didn't stay there for long. I darted out as quickly as I possibly could, and tripping over myself, hands sweaty and gripping onto the door handle. I have never ran that fast in my life. Whatever that thing was, it was evil, for scaring me like that. Also, side note, there was one detail that tripped me out so much. I couldn't hear any footsteps at all. It was really quiet at the time, so there was no reason why there was absolutely no sound of footsteps. Whatever that was that came in that stall next to mine, I guarantee it wasn't human. So, I ran out of toilet paper in my apartment a couple of days ago. I've been meaning to go to the store for a while, but man, I've been busy. And sure enough, tonight I had that unavoidable feeling that you get every so often when your diet consists mainly of General Chicken and Bud Light. Anyway, it was no big deal, I thought. I would just go down to my condo's clubhouse and use the public restroom there. And clean, spacious, but best of all, they had toilet paper. Fortunately, it was late enough that there was no one else in there. I'm sitting there, browsing Reddit and just taking my sweet time on the toilet as usual, when the lights go off. It was one of those motion-activated light switches that turn off after 10 or 15 minutes. Save the planet green stuff, whatever. I figured it was no big deal. I wasn't exactly gonna stand up in the middle of doing my business to get the lights to turn back on. I waved my arms a bit, but that didn't trigger the light, so I just resigned to finish up in peace, content with the blue light from my phone. A couple of minutes go by, then the bathroom door swings open. I can see a sliver of light from the hallway outside for a moment. I hear footsteps enter onto the tile, and then the door swings closed. The lights don't go on. I'm thinking, what the shit? Somehow this guy figured out how to avoid the motion sensor lights. I hit the lock screen to black my phone out, and at this point, the hairs on my back of my neck are starting to stand up because this is just too strange. My hearing now hyped up to every sound, so much that they are ringing, eager to pick up some sensory information in the darkness. There are no windows in that bathroom, no way in or out besides the door that had just swung closed. No light source besides the energy savers overhead, currently off. I started thinking about what to do. Should I ask who's there? Say what's up? Stand up with my pants down and hop around to activate the light? All those seemed like wrong options in that moment. Then, finally, there came a step, and another. Closer. Still no lights. I am barely breathing at this point. It approaches the door to my stall. Fuck. It stops. My muscles are tense and my bowels are loose. This is it. Fight or fight. The latch on my stall rattles. In one blurry motion, I leaped up from the toilet and pulled up my pants, threw my shoulder into the stall door with a scream, and bolted. The lights came on and I pulled this maneuver, accelerating my fright. I never saw what it was that was in front of my stall. Only felt its weight absorb my charge as I flew by. I ran straight back up to my apartment. My heart has never pounded so hard in my life. I didn't even get the chance to wipe my ass in the end, now that I think about it. Oh, fuck. Someone's been knocking at my door every few minutes, but I am afraid to answer or even look through the peephole. I thought I would at least write this post first. They are knocking now. I'm gonna answer. We'll update. Update. Here it is. Sorry, it's been so long. I realized I was sitting around with shit in my shorts, so I took a shower immediately after answering the door and just passed out. Turns out it was the night man. He had heard the commotion and went to check the bathroom. I had knocked down the stall door, so I'm on the hook for replacing that. He wanted to know what was going on, so I told him my story. At first, he was kinda annoyed, but somewhat amused at the ridiculousness of it all. But I could see that his interest was piqued when I told him about the lights not turning on. He said that was strange, and asked to make sure I had actually heard someone come in. I definitely had. With that, he told me he would take a look at the camera they have in the hallway outside of the bathroom to see who went in. Well, anyway, if that's anything interesting, I'm sure he'll let me know when he is back on duty tonight. I asked him how he knew it was me that was in the bathroom, and he said that not too many people fit my physical profile. I'm only friendly with the staff, so I guess that makes sense. Time to get on with my life. I'm going to the store to buy toilet paper today, for sure. I don't know where else to go with this. I used to work in a telemarketing office. I know, it sucks. I hated being a telemarketer just as much as people hate telemarketers, but anything is better than cleaning toilets. Most of the day is lazy work. 90% of the people you call hang up on you. I seriously don't know how this is lucrative for anyone, to be honest. Well, anyway, I had been working there for a few years by the time this event happened. I'd seen other employees come and go. The weird, the rude, and plain disgusting. I've seen it all. Well, I was heading to the bathroom for one of my usual breaks. Apparently, it had a technical issue with the plumbing because only one of the women's toilets were in order. The working toilet happened to be in a stall flush against the wall. I locked the swinging stall door and reached into my purse for a fresh pad when I noticed a small hole in the wall near the floor. I had never opted for this stall before, the entire time I had worked there, and so I had never actually seen the hole before. But something just seemed off about it. My curiosity got the best of me, and I decided to see if there was anything inside. I felt around and, sure enough, I felt a small rectangle shape. I pulled it out to find a GoPro camera, the red light on the front shining bright in the dimness of the woman's bathroom. I contacted building security immediately, which the head guy was my older brother. Now, they found out easily enough that the owner of the GoPro was a guy named Harris, who had worked at the company for several months and somehow managed to sneak into the woman's bathroom only a few days after starting. Now, he later admitted to security that he was filming to start a voyeur porn site. He hadn't yet viewed the video, and was only able to pull it off because someone else, in the past, had apparently used the same hole for the same thing years before when the building was owned by a different company. The wall was just thin enough that he could run a cord through it easily to keep the GoPro camera plugged 24/7. He'd connect the charger to the wall outlet in an empty filing room on the other side of the wall during the day, and then to his laptop to upload the video from his micro SD card at night. He actually planned on recording for a few more days when I found the camera. Now, he was fired, but the police were never contacted as our company didn't want to be blamed for the scandal. This is honestly enough material to keep me awake for a while, but it gets so much weirder. Now, a few weeks passed and I started to forget the event. Now, it did still make my skin crawl, but I could sleep better at night knowing that it was all over and done with. As far as I knew, I'd never have to see that guy again. Well, at least, that's what I thought up until my phone rang at 3 a.m. one night. I groggily answered, irritated that someone would call at this hour. Hey, it's Harris. I know you don't want to hear from me, and please don't hang up until I'm finished talking. I know I probably make you uncomfortable, but I find something really messed up on my GoPro tapes, and I felt like you're the only person that would know what to do. I thought about hanging up, but instead asked him what his definition of messed up was. Like, fucking unreal supernatural shit. I felt uneasy, but I could hear the fear in his voice. I agreed to meet up with him at the Starbucks and discuss whatever it was that was scaring him. That morning, on my day off that week, I met up with Harris as promised. He seemed really nervous, looking around every so often. His hand shook as he sipped his coffee. This kid didn't look like some perverted creep. He was young, a stoner-looking kid who was likely just doing anything to make an extra buck. Apparently, that anything didn't have any moral boundaries. He let out a sigh and grabbed his laptop out of his bag. I expressed that I really didn't want to see videos of women urinating, but he expressed that despite having recorded almost non-stop for months, he only caught a few dozen actual women on tape. This is the weirdest thing. I knew ladies had come in and out of there all day, but most of them managed to completely avoid the back stall. I think I know why. He went on to explain that he found whatever scared him while going through the video, planning to delete it and move on, but checking through mostly out of curiosity. Being arrested by work security was enough to scare him and make him look into the legality of selling voyeur porn of non-consenting parties. Apparently, it wasn't pretty. He sat the laptop in front of me and pressed play. The video was angled oddly, but probably well in the standard of catching what he intended to film. You could see most of the stall, the back wall, and some of the ceiling. I noticed that Harris looked away, and I started to worry that what I was about to see might actually be serious. And it was. 30 seconds into the clip, a figure moved into view. The bathroom was dim, but not so dark that you wouldn't be able to see a person's features. But this person had none. Other than the general shape of a human feature, it was literally like looking at a dark shadow. I heard the stall door close on the video, and the shadow stood in the stall for about 3 minutes of the video before it started to get down on all fours. Ellis seemed to smell the floor and eventually the toilet bowl before actually climbing up onto the toilet, then onto the wall, and then the ceiling. I stared at the video in absolute shock, almost wanting to believe Harris had manufactured the video in order to get me here, but somehow knowing that wasn't true. The thing hangs there from the ceiling, swaying its head from side to side for several hours, climbing in and out of frame, assumingly out of the bathroom. Altogether, I have 16 different nights where this happened. It's exactly the same every single time. Since watching these clips, I've had horrible nightmares. I've tried deleting them, but something inside me just won't let me. Now we go through the rest of the meeting discussing the film. After seeing several of the other clips, I started to feel increasingly nauseous. I guess this showed on my face. Are you feeling sick? That's all I felt for the past few weeks. Now he asked me later what he thought we should do. I told him that I hadn't decided yet, but wanted him to email me the clips so I could have my brother take a look at them. A few weeks later, I had my brother over at my apartment to see the tapes. I had nightmares since the meeting with Harris. He had texted me a few times, telling me that he felt someone or something was watching him, which I assured him that no one was. I didn't know for sure, of course. I couldn't know that. Still, I thought at the time that keeping him calm rather than playing into it would be better. My brother watched the clips in dumbstruck awe. Leah, this is bad. I nodded in agreement. We have to do something. I can talk to a guy I know in the HR, and we could try to figure out if there's there's anything weird going on in this building. We agreed on it, and he said he would get to it first thing the next morning. I woke up in the late afternoon to several missed calls from my brother. I called him back and found out that he contacted his friend in HR that told him that he would look into it. Not even an hour later, he was handed a notice of unemployment. He was given a notice for myself as well. Now, to this day, my brother and I don't talk. He holds me responsible for getting him fired. After that, I spent a lot of time by myself, wondering why they would fire us for something like that. Had they thought that we were making a joke? The days flew by and I found myself more uneasy. I, too, had started to feel like I was being watched. I found out from a former co-worker that apparently Harris had left town. Why didn't he tell me? I have no idea. I texted his phone to only find that it was disconnected. It's been months since then, and I've moved on as well. Absolutely wasting all the money I had saved over the years and putting myself in a pretty deep financial hole. It was the only way I could shake off feeling of being watched. Now, a few days ago, I decided I'd write here on NoSleep, and I went back to review the footage just to make sure that I hadn't missed out on anything. I found, then, that all trace of the video along with the emails that contained, they were all gone. I really don't know what to think anymore.